Welcome to Boss Radio Live, where he is the boss of me. I'm your host, NJ. Welcome to the show. Today we have an amazing guest. Today we always have amazing guests, but today is no different. We have Dara Rosenbaum with us, and you'll learn a little bit more about her coming up in just a moment. It's Boss Radio Live with NJ, your three-dimensional podcast. Baltimore, Maryland. I love my city. Wow. You have to have balance.
Mother's Day extravaganza event being held. ILC Lois Button Culver.
Come meet me today at the Spirit Center. I want to hear what you have to say. Again, welcome to Boss Radio Live. As I said, our guest today is Miss Dara Rosenbaum. She is an amazing lawyer and business advisor. If you have never heard of Dara Rosenbaum, here's a little about her. As a business law attorney, business owner and advisor, wife and mother, Dara Rosenbaum takes a practical approach to discussing legal issues and business challenges. Dara has a deep passion for creating, helping, protecting, and growing companies, and she became a lawyer to help people resolve conflict without combat. Dara's approach is straightforward, minus the complicated legal jargon. One of the ways she assists business owners is through educating them on how to positively impact their business through the power of networking. Whether Dara is taking on tough legal issues or educating and advising, her desire to help business owners always shines bright. Welcome to the show, everyone. Miss Dara Rosenbaum.
Hi, how are you? So good to be here.
Welcome, Dara. I am so glad to have you for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One is this take that you have on how important it is to network, which it is so important, and we want to get to that. But also the fact that you have a connection to us
I do.
in Baltimore, which I thought was so cool because you're actually in New York, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about your connection, as you went to school.
Yeah, I graduated from Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. So it's been a minute or so, but I spent 4 years down there.
Yes, so glad to have you streaming here in Baltimore. So back in that way, if not in person. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to have you on today because besides being an amazing lawyer, you decided to kind of get straight into business law. And so I want to talk about that and your experience with that. So can we talk first about your passion, why you have this passion for business law and how that started?
Sure. So professionally, I was sort of born and raised professionally as a trial lawyer, defending companies mostly on behalf of insurance companies, doing all sorts of, any sort of personal injury, property damage, any insurance coverage, all that kind of stuff. And I was dealing with companies primarily when they were involved in a dispute. And I started getting lots of questions. Like, hey, wait a second, how did I get into this in the first place? I thought my contract read this way. Why am I paying? I thought somebody else had to do something. I didn't realize I had to do something. I didn't realize my insurance coverage wasn't what it was supposed to be. And I realized there was such a need for an advisory role. Somebody who could be proactive with the business and use law to help protect the business, to help the businesses grow, form them, protect them, help them grow. And the passion really comes from the fact that, whether it's a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, small business owners, medium-sized businesses, whether you're a worker or an owner or a business leader, that business is there to support you and your family. So it's so personal because it's not just what you do and where you spend your days, or where you spend your days virtually if you're working from home. It's really what supports your family, or what supports you, or supports whatever lifestyle you have. So it became a real passion of mine to not only help businesses when they're involved in disputes, which I certainly still do, but to kind of get involved earlier, to help them be proactive, to audit things from a legal and structural perspective, to be involved in those strategic conversations and those kind of in that advisory role, so that hopefully they can spend their time running the business, doing the business, being the business owner, the business leader, and spend hopefully very little time worrying about like the legal stuff.
And you know what? That is really important. I've seen that on several occasions myself, where, one of the most and I guess frequent things that I have seen is people using like canned, oh my gosh, canned templates
Mm-hmm.
for like contracts
Yeah.
and things like that. And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, that can work out so not in your favor. Like,
Yes.
that language could be for another state. It could be, you just have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Do you find that this happens more so with smaller business owners or those solopreneurs more than yeah.
I think so. And I think that, listen, it's completely understandable because, when you're starting a business, or you're getting involved in a business, you're building a business, you want to get right to the revenue part. You want to get right to the doing the work and bringing the money in, providing the service, providing the product, whatever it is. And I understand why people would want to, just get the contract off of Google, start using it and filling it out. And I think that honestly, those contracts have a place, which is the starting point. So the types of things that are discussed in those contracts, payment terms, cancellation terms, scope of work, whatever, all these different terms that are in the contract are things that business owners and business leaders or solopreneurs need to think through. And it's a great starting point for a conversation among owners or among business leaders. It's a good starting point for anybody starting out, or somebody who's going to sit down with an attorney to say, listen, these are all things I've thought through, or I'm not really sure what this one means, or this is the kind of contract I want to have, but let's talk through what I need specifically. So it can be a great starting point. It's understandable to me why people use those things, but they're never going to be as customized as you want them to be. They're never going to protect you as well. And when you have that live person you can talk to, who gets to know your business, gets to know you, gets to know how you like to do things, what issues you have with customers or clients or vendors, that contract or that agreement can really work so much better for you than something you're going to find online.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So you are now part of a law firm, Rosenbaum and Taylor.
Yep.
How did that evolve? Where did you go from being? I'm assuming you started out at some law firm
Mhm.
and then kind of worked your way up. So tell us about that, because that's your journey
Mhm.
into becoming a business owner.
Right. So Taylor actually was my boss 20 years ago, 22 years
Okay.
ago, I think now. Hired me, and I worked on Scott's team at another firm, a larger firm, 30 attorneys at its height. And we worked together. I was an associate on his team. We had other team members, and we worked. And we got to the point where we would joke around about things and say, well, if this is Rosenbaum and Taylor, we wouldn't have to deal with this political thing going on with the firm. Or if this was Rosenbaum and Taylor, we could do this our way. And it just got to sort of a point in late 2010, right between Christmas and New Year's. So it's like, you know what? I think it's time. And he'd been there 20 years. I'd been there 10. And, or maybe, I think he's there almost 30 years now. And
Wow.
he's got a couple years on me. And it just, okay, it's time, let's do this. And I don't think we really knew what that meant. But we tried, and our approach was, okay, let's plan to be out. It's January. Let's plan to be out of here by May. Let's give ourselves a nice long runway, and let's learn everything we think we need to know, which is, we were still wrong about that. Still so much more to know. And let's do a little something every day.
Mm.
That's, whether that's selecting our computers, finding our, our insurance coverage, deciding on a logo, like we were doing a little bit every day to move it. And we were very, very lucky because we were able to take all of our clients and customers and matters with us.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I recognize how fortunate we were. And we walked out of there on Friday with lots of boxes, and on Monday we were in our own space doing the same work for the same clients, but the money was coming into us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was very lucky, not the typical story. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I think I wish I'd known earlier was that I wasn't just going to be a lawyer practicing law at my own firm. I was then becoming a business owner. And I would say it wasn't until a couple of years ago until I really started seeing myself as not just a lawyer at our own firm, but a business attorney, a business owner. And I think that really helped inform me in terms of not only all the experiences I've had over 20 years and learning from what other companies have done and seeing how I can advise my clients, but really seeing it from a personal perspective.
And when I'm talking with business owners, a lot of time, I guess there's a misconception sometimes when they're, especially at the very beginning,
Mhm.
there's this thing of, I'm going to do this for myself and it's going to be amazing. And some people think that they're going to do a 9 to 5 job and could not be more wrong. They find out sooner or later, the sooner is more like it. But
I love when people say, well, you make your own hours. I'm like, I do. I make them longer.
yes, so that is definitely, it takes a lot of dedication. So to have someone like you to be able to, kind of advise them along the way is amazing. And a lot of times, people don't believe in putting in that, financially putting in the money when they're starting their business, which is super important, to do that. But also, the time, there's a lot of time and there can be a lot of finances that can go into it at the beginning just to get that solid foundation.
Right.
Can you talk about your experience with business owners with that, as far as them, getting off to a solid start?
I would say I get a lot of misconceptions. So I get people saying like, I'm starting a business, but I can't take out a second mortgage on my home to do the law part. I'm like, you don't have to do that. I can't do all this legal stuff all at once. Like, well, you don't have to do it all at once. Let's get the formation documents down. Let's get it properly filed with the state. Let's make sure your licenses are in order and all the protections that you have the proper insurance. Now let's start thinking about the contractual relationships, and that's internal and external. So if you're working by yourself, no problem. You probably pretty much agree with yourself. But if you've got partners and or you've got investors or you have co-owners or shareholders, all of those relationships should be as formal as possible. Because the best time to get all those things down on paper is when everybody's getting along. Everybody's excited about the business. They're ready to go. They want to get those doors open. That's when you get everybody to agree and to sit down and think through all those things. You don't want to be sitting there, years down the road, finding out that you don't agree with your co-owner or fellow leader on something, and the two of you have not decided how to resolve that. You also don't want to find out that the relationships with your clients or your customers or your vendors or, distributors, manufacturers, whatever the relationship is that you have, you want to make sure that that's I'll say as formal as possible, but I will also say that it doesn't have to sound like Shakespeare. It doesn't have to be this, wherefore in the party of the first part who agrees with, don't, if you can't understand the contract, don't read it, don't use it. So, I think that people get intimidated a little bit by the idea of like, I have a contract and I'm not really going to understand it. And how am I going to present it to clients or to customers? Well, first of all, if you're working with an attorney who you don't understand, I would humbly suggest you need to find another attorney. Find an attorney at the beginning who believes in you. It's super easy to believe in the people who are really successful and they've been doing it for years and everything's going real well. Find the person who believes in you with the new idea, or who you can trust to say like, all right, I've been doing this for a few years, but I kind of realize I haven't done this the right way. Let me show you this sort of embarrassing contract I've been using and let's fix it. So I think there are there's lots of pitfalls in there, but it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a mortgage payment. It doesn't have to be the price of a new car, and it doesn't have to be all at once. So you start biting
Mm.
off in bite-sized chunks, and you find somebody who's going to work with you. And sometimes you can get a flat fee arrangement for those first set of documents. Sometimes you
Wow.
look at like, well, our priority is updating this agreement. The other ones we're going to push down the road a little bit. So I would say, don't be intimidated by starting and thinking that it's going to be a major investment of time and money, and you'd rather be spending the money on something else with the business. I would say, find somebody who you can speak freely with and say, listen, this is what I have, this is what I'd like to focus on, here's what my concern is, this is what's keeping me up at night, but I really can't spend more than X. Somebody will work with you who's the right person and understand your needs and understand that, you're in a different position in terms of your priorities than somebody who might have, a greater amount of funds to work with.
Wow, those were some great points that you gave. I hope you guys were listening. It sounded like you were. I saw people commenting. So I hope you guys are listening in. That was awesome nuggets you just dropped. Thank you. Um, but yes, getting those contractual relationships down, like you said, when everybody's happy, that was a great point.
It's the easiest time to do it.
So talk to us, because personally, again, we were talking about your transition to being a business owner. So
Mhm.
what, challenges did you have? Let's learn from you as well. What challenges did you have yourself when you were starting your firm?
I have heard it called shiny object syndrome. Somebody would call, or I get a cold call, or I get an email or something about some system I didn't know I needed. It's like, oh, okay. And I did enough research into it, and I understand, like, okay, this system really would help. And it seems so obvious to me, but what I was doing then was like, well, let me speak to this salesperson or this representative, and let's see what this entails, because this seems like the right solution. What I should have been doing was figuring out, like, okay, if I need that solution, first of all, do I really need it? And who do I want to get it from? What do I need it to do? Can I try it out before I jump in and make a year-long commitment to it? Can I try it out before I make an investment in it? Can I talk to people who have been using it in my industry who are going to tell me whether it's good or bad? We made several mistakes in that department, several costly mistakes in that department,
Wow.
because it sounded great. Hey, somebody's coming up with this solution, and we're going to get this new software that's going to do something that we didn't really know we needed, but hey, that sounds really wonderful. You get back and you're like, okay, I didn't need the software. I didn't need that software. I probably didn't need any software to do that. And that just we spent a lot of time and money on that. So I think that, that was one of the lessons from the transition. And I think, like I said before, I think just thinking of it as a business, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's something you're doing in your garage or your basement, or you've got, shiny new office space someplace, it's a business. So think of it that way. Somebody early on said to us, run this like grandma's candy store. And it was so smart. You don't need to have the biggest and best, whatever it is. Find what works for you, and keep yourself on a budget, because you don't have to make all those big investments. You want the money to start coming in. So what do you need to do now? What steps do you need to take now to get the money to come in? And then once that starts happening, what else do you want to bring into place? We were very slow to hire people. When we started out, it was just me and Scott, no support staff. We were answering phones and stuffing envelopes and folding things. We were doing everything. Yeah. We joke around with, like, the good old days. We liked working together. We were loving what we were doing. We were getting it off the ground. I would say when people try to grow too quickly, like they're bringing in, friends and neighbors, or they're bringing, they're hiring people and they're bringing in lots of labor. You don't want to get ahead of yourself, where now you've made commitments to these people, and you've, either taken them from other jobs or had them feel like they can rely on you, and you can't pay them. So I think that, sometimes there's that eagerness to just, run right out of the gate. And I would say, slow it down, do things a little bit more methodically and a little bit more carefully. Because if you, like you said, laying that foundation is important. Take the time to lay the foundation. Take the time to consider whether you need, this person or that person, whether you need a person at all, and whether you need that shiny object somebody has decided to advertise to you.
Yeah, I think we've all had a bit of that
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
we can laugh about it now, but when you're in the middle of it, you're like, what did I do?
and you know, it it's interesting at the beginning because you really do, you're like, everybody. You're filling all the positions and you're
Hmm.
doing all of that. And so I think it does help what you said to just, slow and steady and not get so worried about, scaling up and all of this grandeur,
Hmm.
like right from the onset. So
Hmm.
great advice. This is really good. I'm loving the advice that you are giving our audience. So,
I'll add something because I think something that we did was very smart in the beginning. We went into executive suites. So plug and play. They had the furniture, they had internet, they had a receptionist at the front who had this big switchboard and she could answer everybody's phone line as if it was, so she answered our phone, Rosenbaum and Taylor. And the next time she answered the next phone line, it was ABC Graphics. How may I help you? And we had sort of this, I wouldn't say illusion, but we certainly didn't seem like it was just me and Scott. We had sort of the infrastructure behind us, but we didn't have to buy furniture. We didn't have to rent a copier. We didn't have to find a place for the kitchen. We had some place to get coffee. We didn't have to run computer lines for the internet. And I think whether it's something like that or something like that in a virtual way, because many companies are offering that virtual piece now,
mhm,
that's a way a fairly inexpensive way to sort of outsource some of the reception, those types of things that you don't need to be working on. We also worked with a professional employment organization, which is basically an organization where you become technically a co-employee. So what you're doing there is they're taking over whatever aspects of the business you want them to. It can be healthcare because they get a better rate with a big group of people than you're going to get on your own. Whether it is HR functions, payroll functions, billing functions, there's all sorts of, choose from the menu what kind of things you want them to do. But at the right time with the right company, I think that can be a really good way to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on what I know how to do. I'm not ready to hire a CFO. I'm not ready to hire a receptionist. I don't need an HR person. I don't want to be running my own payroll. I don't have a bookkeeper. That's an easy way, at first to sort of get those things handled. And then eventually over time, we took all of those on our own, but we didn't try to do, it was hard enough to be a lawyer at our own firm, running a law firm. I was not going to be a bookkeeper and a payroll specialist and a health insurance broker and all that other stuff.
yes. And for some people, this is important because you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. So if none of that stuff you just named is your strong suit,
Right.
de- definitely don't do it because it could actually end up causing you more trouble than
And that's
helping
not,
you.
and that's
So
not where you're making your money. I mean, those are necessary functions, but that's all back office. That's not getting customers, and that's not working on client relations. That's not performing the service or making the product. That's just back office. So, at the appropriate time, at the appropriate size, is something I think I always recommend people consider because I think it's a way to take all those things off of the owners of the leaders' plates and just let them focus on making money.
yeah, so very important. And another thing that, of course, we were talking about, which is kind of what today's show is about. But
Mhm.
I love everything that we have talked about so far, but also utilizing that power of networking
Oh yeah. Hmm.
to really impact your business. So, talk to us about that and how you advise people with that.
I would say one thing that I didn't realize was how willing people are to help if you just ask the question. And so many things, like you said, if these things aren't your strong suit, don't try to do them. But also, if these things aren't your strong suit, but you're not in a position to hire somebody, you got to figure it out yourself. Don't try to figure it out yourself. Somebody else has done it. Somebody else has figured it out. And nobody was knocking on my door saying, "Hey, Dara, that shiny object thing you were planning to buy, don't do it." Nobody was saying like, "Hey, let me give you the name of my health insurance broker because he's gotten us a good deal," or "Here's where I leased my copier from," or "Here's what happened when we had this issue arise." But so nobody was knocking on my door, and I didn't ask anyone. It's like, I'll figure it out myself. I'm a business owner. I can figure this out. It takes up too much time, first of all, and none of us are reinventing the wheel. You're maybe doing an interesting product or a new service. You may be providing something new, but the functions of running the business are not new. So the first thing is find people who are doing something similar to you or who are at a similar stage of their development and ask them questions, because people are so willing to help, especially people who just kind of see that passion in you that they have or they had, and they want to help. Just ask them. I think, one of the things that people get sheepish about is like, well, I'm just starting out. What do I have to offer people? And how do I just start networking? So I would say start small. Start whether it's, LinkedIn, find people. If you're not comfortable, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend reaching out to everybody who seems to do something you might want to get in touch with. Start with people who are from your hometown. Do that kind of sales navigator, use that search function on there, narrow it to where people went to high school, where people went to college. Then this way you've got a commonality to start out with. And I think just start out with conversations. You're not looking to sell anyone anything. You're not looking to sell yourself. You're either looking to learn, you're looking to connect, you're looking to forge a relationship, because you're not, your networking is not geared toward, let me find somebody who can help me grow my business. You're going to find those people organically, and people are going to want to introduce you to people, but you have to get yourself out there. And I would say, don't wait until you feel like you have the perfect brand put together and you're, polished and ready to go and you are camera ready. I would say, start networking when you have the idea, because, you may find people who want to work on it with you, who have a reason that you need to hone it a little bit or refine it a little bit, or just people. I really can't overstate the need to have people who have struggled, because you're going to go through, as a business owner, any stage of your career, any stage life cycle of the business, you're going to go through that. I can't believe it. I can't believe how hard this has gotten. I just lost a customer. I just lost a client. My machinery's down. I can't find people to hire. Our payroll costs are too high. All sorts of things are going to happen. And it's so good to have that resource, that group of people and that network who you've already built. You've gotten to know them, whether it's virtually or in person, going to events. Whoever you've kind of created as your little community is going to be there for you. And you reach out to somebody who, even if it's somebody you haven't met, but you've kind of developed that, virtual relationship with. Hey, can I borrow you for, can I get you a virtual cup of coffee? Today's been really tough, because it's so easy, I think, as business owners to feel isolated. Even if it's 3 or 4 business owners together, and you kind of feel isolated, like nobody else is dealing with us. I don't want to share. So I think there's so much about networking that is about just sharing who you are, being open and honest enough to say, listen, this is what's going well and this is what is not going so well. Do you have any advice? And I think once you open yourself up to that and start just finding people who you feel supported by, you end up with a whole network of people who you can count on for moral support, resources, and who eventually start getting to know what you're doing and how you're doing it and the kind of person you are. And they naturally want to work with you, or they naturally think of somebody who they know who might want to work with you, or a connection they should make for you. So I would say networking is a long game. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, but it's something that you kind of have to keep at. And just, I know I have so many thoughts about networking.
So, good.
But I would say you have to do it true to who you are. I mean, there are people who are going to walk into the networking meeting who are going to be the loudest one in the room, who are going to be shaking everybody's hand and telling a story that everybody's listening to with rapt attention. Great people. There are also going to be those people who are more in the corner, hanging out by the punch bowl, having 1 or 2 important conversations. There are people who are going to sit in the audience and not necessarily talk to anybody, but they're going to listen and absorb and maybe take some notes as people they want to contact. You don't have to be any of those people. You can be whoever you are. Mm-hmm. And it's such a cliche to say show up authentically, but I think as long as you're genuine and you're real and you share with your people your passions and where your weaknesses are, what your needs are, they're going to be willing to share theirs with you. And I think that that's where everyone's going to learn more.
And I know that was amazing. That was great information. And I know some of the places we tell people to go is like industry mm-hmm. groups and organizations, mm-hmm. And also like Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Groups are all really great places to go where people are one in business and are having, like you said, the same struggles.
Mhm.
But like the industry groups and organizations, you're actually going to be people who are in your
Mhm.
particular industry, and so they know what you're talking about when you're discussing what's happening with you.
And if you come
So
across somebody who's got a great network, like you feel like so and so is the proverbial mayor, they know everybody. Ask them how they built that network. What'd you do? Where'd you go? How'd you get started? I think that, and that's great advice, because a mix of industry groups and chambers of commerce and special interest groups, whether that's whether that's your background or your community or a church group, it could be any kind of group. A mix of that is nice, because you don't want to just be in a room with your competitors. You don't want to just be in a room
mm,
with people who only work, regionally. Depending on the service you're providing or the product you're making, you might want to get more, much more broad than that. So I think a great mix of those places, you start kind of getting a feel for what works for you and where you're comfortable.
great point. Great point. Wow, Dara, you have done it. It's been a half an hour, and I feel like you have given us so much information. I mean, my gosh, I'm literally going to go back through this to listen myself and make sure I didn't miss anything. It's
Well,
really
thank you.
good.
I really, like I said, I'm running off at the mouth, and I feel like I'm going pretty quick. But this is stuff that I'm just really super passionate about, and I love
I
sharing
can
what I learn.
tell. I can tell definitely. I thank you so much. You have given us so much to chew on and
My
think
pleasure.
about. So I know my listening audience is going to feel really blessed by this.
Great.
So you guys replay and replay until you get it all.
And reach
Thank you.
and reach out to me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Find me. I'm always
Yes.
happy to talk. I love those connections. So reach out with questions. Reach out to connect, and that's
I'm
what I think.
just going to cycle
We'll do
through
it.
your information. Yes, she's on
Perfect.
Facebook, you guys. She's on IG, Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And as she said, LinkedIn. I don't know why I don't have your LinkedIn, but yes,
It's just Dara Rosenbaum.
there you go.
Okay.
So yes, definitely check her out and find. You can find more information because you actually have a podcast yourself.
I
So
do.
yes, so tell us about that. What kind of things are you talking about?
So it's called Compelling Conversations, where law meets business. I'm the law, and the business is business leaders, business owners, inspiring people with good stories. And my premise really is just that I've learned so much from what other people have done. What other people have done right, what they've done wrong, what they would have done differently if they could had to do it over again. And to me, I can share that one-on-one with people and one-on-one with clients, but I like sharing it to a bigger group. It gets the message out there faster so that people don't have to make the same mistakes. And I also love connecting people. I love that, that connection function where you find people who are, hey, they're going to love being in each other's world for whatever reason, or they're going to, they could work together. Some of them might be hiring, all those things. And I can do the one-on-one introductions, but to me, the podcast was sort of a shortcut to that. My viewers, my listeners can get on the podcast, listen to somebody, and I'm not just doing a one-to-one introduction. I'm introducing my guest to a whole bunch of people who might want to connect with them, learn about what they're doing, have a business opportunity, have a personal opportunity, whatever it is. So it's really kind of what gets me excited about the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, you guys check out her podcast too, because it sounds like there is loads of great information coming from that as well.
I hope so.
Thank you again, Dara. This has been really
My
amazing.
pleasure.
And
My pleasure.
yes, thank you so much. So, you guys, that is another great episode. Thank you to our guest today, Miss Dara Rosenbaum.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, you guys, another great episode of Boss Radio Live. I hope you guys, again, like I said, listen to the replay. Make sure you got all of that information. It was such great information that Dara left us with today. And join us for the next show in 2 weeks, every second and fourth Friday, of course, at 6 p.m. We are here with more great guests, just like Dara. So we will see you guys the next time. Until then, stay boss.